Hello guys, gals and pals, and welcome to a video going back to the basics and talking about trans stuff. Now, as I'm sure you might have heard already today, there's been a couple of big news that happened recently, specifically the passing away of noted pop producer and singer SOPHIE, and also the coming out of Abigail Thorn, who runs a channel called Philosophy Tube. You might have heard of her. Now, these are two very, very big icons that have had quite an impact on the trans community and have had a large amount of influence when it comes to people being aware of and recognizing transgender people and the issues that affect us as a group. I want to talk briefly, using both of these events as a bit of a jumping off point. I want to discuss something about the trans community that I don't think gets talked about often enough. And I briefly touched upon this in my Elliot Page video when I discussed the way that trans celebrities exist and how important or useful they are when it comes to spreading awareness, and not just in specific spreading awareness to people who are cis, who might not understand trans community or might not understand trans people or what we do or who we are, but also when it comes to spreading awareness of those things to people who are trans, who are unable to really see themselves or have themselves reflected in their media, and then to have these popular people being something that they can then look at and go, oh, that's me, that's who I want to be, they're like I am. And that's great for enabling those trans people who might not have had those kind of connections or might not have had that kind of identity knowledge to be able to finally start exploring who they are. I want to, using these two events, which, like I said, it's a real mixed bag day, honestly. I listened to quite a bit of Sophie's stuff. I really liked it because it was in that kind of weird pop way where it was just so strange musically that it stood out. It was also very inventive in the way that it treated pop as a genre, but not even just that, but also the way that it even thought about music. So her passing away was a pretty bad thing. It's a pretty bad thing for the artistic community as a whole, and it's also a pretty bad thing specifically for the trans community, where quite often we don't have a lot of people that are out there publicly and in such a large position doing things to represent us, and to see any of them passing away is a pretty sad event. It is not just sad on a personal level, as I'm sure the family or the close friends are feeling, but it's also sad on a cultural level, where it's an icon that stands out for us, unfortunately not being around anymore. But on that same vein, Abigail Thorn coming out is fantastic. It's another trans person finally understands herself better, and that's great. That's amazing. It's fantastic to see her doing that, and also not just that, but to see the impact that she could have on her audience, to have on the hundreds of thousands of people that follow her and who listen to her, who might see this kind of journey and see these kind of events and think to themselves, oh, if she can do that, I can do that. Especially right now in the UK, with things the way they are, having people who are willing to publicly come out like this can be a big impact, because there's a lot of bad stuff going down in the UK right now, especially when it comes to trans rights and trans people. So any positive news is fantastic and is really good for bolstering the general morale of the trans community and the general mental health as well. And this is what I wanted to touch upon this video, because you might have noticed already what I was doing there, which is that these celebrities or these famous people coming out as trans isn't just a personal thing for them. For most trans people, it is a personal event. It is a personal journey that you go through, and it's mostly relevant to just you. But when it comes to people who have large platforms, like all of these people, it does become in itself not just yours. And this isn't something that just happens to trans people, it happens to most groups, especially groups that are disadvantaged. When a celebrity who is from that identity group exists or does things and is successful, their success isn't just their own success. Their success is a sign, is a message to the majority community and to their own community about what can be achieved, about what can be done, and about the possibilities that are there for that group. And that might seem like a hard thing to come to terms with, and that might seem unfair. that you can't just be yourself, that whoever you are is also in part shared by all the people who are looking up to you, who are committed and invested in you being able to do who you are and be who you are in a way that manages to help the rest of the people who share a similar identity to you. It does kind of suck that you can't just have that, but within that sharing of who you are, there's also a lot of good that has to be recognised, and I think that a lot of that good does outweigh the negatives of maybe feeling like you've lost some of your own identity or lost some of your own individuality in the chorus of people who look up to you, who are appreciative and who are recognising not just the work that you do, but the fact that your very existence is a big deal in and of itself. There's a lot that can be done just because of who you are. There's a lot that you will just naturally, by continuing to exist, have a positive impact on those around you, and not just those that are close to you, but also the greater world as a whole. That's a big deal, and I think that those positives, that capability to have that kind of larger capability to influence the way the world works, is something that these people need to recognise. And not just them, but also us, the people who are around them, who do see them and who do realise how much this could mean to everybody. And like I said beforehand, it does mean a lot of pressure on you to have to be the best, because of the fact that it does have continual impacts on the lives of almost everyone connected to that identity. But none of that comes from a place of negativity or a place of trying to hurt you as a person. It comes from a place of recognising the power that's vested into you by the system that we live in, where certain individuals do gain more of this social impact and social capital, if you want to call it that, to change lives. To not just change lives, but also change the way that society views stuff. I mean, there are certain trans people that exist in a way that hurts other trans people, that hurts trans rights because of their actions. And while it's great that they're trans and able to come out as that, the fact that they've taken their identity and are applying and using that in a way that's directly hurting the community that they're part of, the community that they have the most impact on, and the community that will look up to them, and the people who will look up to them and see what they do and think about how they could be like that, to see them so negatively harm that does so much extra damage. So that's what I want to talk about today when we talk about these trans celebrities and trans people, and how them coming out and them being who they are, or them passing away, is a shared experience, is a shared moment for all the people of the identity that they are part of. Because who they are has a great impact on that group. Their very existence as a public figure does mean a lot to a greater number of people than they impact in their own personal lives. And the ability to recognise that and to understand how important that is something that definitely needs to be taken into account, and is why you see these minority groups, especially the trans community, being so invested in the people who are trans. It's because there is some kind of bond that forms between these people around this sort of stuff. There is a bond around what shared experience we have as a group, about the way that we interact with and the way that we currently have to exist under cis society, and the struggle back against that forms these close-knit connections between the people in there. And that's why we're so defensive and why we're so invested in the lives of other trans people, because of that recognition of that fact. And like I said, this isn't just a trans thing, all minority groups have this kind of same effect. So that's what I wanted to talk about today with these big events happening. I wanted to discuss the importance of public, famous trans people and the way they interact with their lives, and also to push back a little bit against some people who might be annoyed about the way the trans community gets so heavily invested in these people, because I wanted to make it clear that that investment is a necessity, is almost a requirement of the way that we interact with the larger society as a whole. It's not something that we can so much choose as it just happens, and our focus on it is in fact one of great importance for the advancement of trans people and the community as a whole in a positive manner. So that was it. I want to just end this by quickly saying yet again a huge congratulations to Abigail Thorn. I hope you continue to make really awesome videos and to enjoy life to its fullest, especially now that you might be more comfortable being yourself. It's really, really great. I look forward to seeing the work that you do in the future. Other than that, if you've liked this video, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, all the usual jazz. I don't want to go too much into all of the self-promotion-y stuff because I hate it, honestly, especially on these kind of videos. So instead, I'm going to be showing up on the screen right now, and I'll also link them down below, a bunch of really awesome trans artists who you should go and check out, who do really great stuff and who have a huge positive impact on the trans community and trans people as a whole. And these are the kind of people that I'm talking about, who are an important part of us moving forward, an important part of us gaining recognition. And this group that I'm throwing up on the screen will be a diverse group, because I do recognise the fact that a lot of our mainstream big people are trans women, white trans women, and we need to have more diversity and more recognition of the fact that we aren't a monolith, that there are trans people out there who fill the whole range of different identities within the group, who don't get that same kind of public visibility. So go and check these people out, because they are doing great stuff and are also reaching people and showing the fact that trans people can exist, and that you as a questioning person could come out and you could make it, just the same way as a whole bunch of us have. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.